Okay, welcome back. We're talking about the array list and how it really has some pretty decent advantages, particularly when you use it with an enhanced for loop. So you don't have to know in advance, and you can insert and delete and do all sorts of fun stuff. So it's actually pretty cool. So why wouldn't I use this everywhere? So since there's an awful lot of advantages of using array lists, you might be wondering, why do we even have the array thing? To tell you the truth, that's what Python does. The Python language doesn't have native support for doing arrays. They just have a thing called list. Okay, but all is not perfect. I saw an article somewhere that talked about the performance for retrieving data, not for putting them in, but retrieving data from an array list versus a plain old array. And this one article said it was like 400 times faster to retrieve data from the array and use 40 times, well, the other one used 40 times more memory. So yes, if you want performance and you want high performance and low memory, then you're probably going to use the plain old array. Okay, there are some disadvantages. One of which is the thing that's in the angle brackets. This I don't know, I'm going to give it a name, but don't repeat this because it's not a real thing. The array list type has a subtype of string. Okay, there's no such thing as a subtype. It's just easy to say. That subtype cannot be a primitive. All right, let me just show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to go down here and build me an array list of integers. So array list int called not going to work is equal to new array list int, and I get a red thing that says, hey man, unexpected required reference type found int, unexpected reference. So I cannot put an honest to God primitive data type in here. So you might think, well, that's dumb. Well, okay, I'll show you the workaround, because this is kind of weird, and that is I have to use the class. Remember, each one of the primitive types also has an associated class with it. You know, like integer, we've done integer.parseInt, right? So integer, it's a capital I. Integer is gonna work is equal to new array list integer. That one will work. Well, only if I put a semicolon at the end. Okay? So that's how you get around it. And then after that, you can just close your eyes and pretend like it's an integer and everything will work. Okay? Cool beans? All right. So remember that all the primitive types has associated class. So integer has integer. Double has the double with a capital D. You know, that kind of stuff. Float has the one with a capital F. All right. Makes sense? So again, I don't have to do anything funky here. I can just say is, you know, once I did this, I can just say add 10, right? I don't have to go in and tell it it's a, you know, a class. A reference type is the correct term. I can use primitives after I get it going. Then I can use primitives, and it'll be happy as a clam. Okay. On page 479, talk about the capacity of the thing versus the size of the thing. All right. The size method in one of these guys is a little weird. The size. So let me go get one. How about names? So I'm just going to go here and say system.out.println size is, and then I'm going to say names 12.size. Now this one is, remember the other one in the array world, this was a read-only field variable. This one is actually a method. Okay, cool. So how many things are in here? Well, there's 3 things in here. Let's go see what the size is. And the size is 3. Cool beans. Now, is that really how much memory this thing has put aside for it? No. Remember how you could have given it a hint saying there's probably going to be 50 names in this list. So there's a way you can tell it how big you want an array list to be. Now, again, this is not a limit, it's just a suggestion. But after you've built the array, then you can go back and say, I made a mistake. And then there's one that you can actually use that says ensure capacity, which means give me at least 100. Okay? And again, all this is going to do is works behind the scenes. You don't have to worry about it. It just means I now know about how many that are going to be. And again, about how many is okay. Because behind the scenes, it's going to try to figure this out. But if you can guess pretty close to the correct answer, well, then please do. Okay? Makes sense. All right. So some people, although I rarely see this thing, some people like to shorten this thing because isn't it fairly obvious that if I use integer here, isn't it fairly obvious I don't need to use the integer a second time over here? All right. So there's a shortcut. So array list integer. Yep. It'll work. Is equal to new array list, and then just use what some people call this the diamond operator. That's pretty hokey. It's just the angle brackets, the thing that does the generic thing, and so you just don't have to tell it. Now, this is actually the preferred technique in Java world, where you've already told it once, so there's no need to tell it a second time. But I'm just telling you, I don't do that because I'm trying to show you things that are going to be portable. So when you take the next computer language, you're not going to type it this way because that works great in Java, but that didn't work with a flip in like C++ or C# or Visual Basic. So just saying, I don't do it that way, although that is the preferred technique for Java people. Okay, before we go, I want to demonstrate using a method to fill an array. Okay, so let's go here up at the top, and we're going to build us an array here up at the top that has higher scope than main. So it's just going to be, static int something, I don't know, some array. Okay, so we built us an array here. So inside main, I'm going to talk to that array and give it, actually build it, because all I did was just declare the variable. So somewhere down here, I'm going to say some array is equal to new int. About 10, that sound good? So now this thing's got 10 elements in it. So I want to build a method that we can use to fill this array rather than just doing it directly. Can you think of a reason why that might be? Let's just start. So static void, some sort of a descriptive name like inner or input or something like that. How about input data? That kind of halfway sounds decent. I need to pass two pieces of information to this thing. One is the location inside the array, that would be the index. And the other is the value that you want to put at that location. So I'm going to say index and value. That kind of makes sense? Cool. Now the simplest way to do this would be just to say some array and then say index is equal to value. That'd be the simplest thing to do. But if that's all you're going to do, then there's no need for you to build a method. There's got to be a reason why you might want to do a method here. What would that be? It's input validation. Okay, so I want to check to see if the index is legit, and maybe even what the value is. I don't know what the value is, so I'm going to skip that one. But I know how to check to see if the index is legit. So index is less than 0, or index is greater than or equal to the sum array length. Okay, if any one of those conditions occur, then I know we're in trouble. System.err println something, I'm index out of bounds, or that's, typically you come up with a little better error message than that. And then, basically do a return statement so you don't actually do anything. So the reason why you'd want to put this in there is because of input validation. So let's give it a whirl. Let's try a couple. So let's do input data, and in position 0, let's put a 5. No particular reason. Cool. At input data, I don't know, at position, 3, let's put a 1. And at input data, I don't know, 5, let's put a 4. Okay? Kind of makes sense? So I'm picking the location in the array, and then I'm putting that value there. And since we already have a thing called sum, let's check out, see if it works. So sum would equal to sum it. Remember how we had this guy? Sum array, right? He's right down here. This guy, where he just sums up the array. Cool. And let's spit this out and see if I did my math right, it should come out to 10. And we'll do sum is sum. Let's see if I made any mistakes. Ta-da! It came out right. Okay, so what was the point of all this? Well, because I like input validation. And if you're talking directly to an array, there's no way you can prevent the programmer from typing in an index is not valid, or a value that's not valid. I mean, if this was age, we'd know how to do that, right? If it was IQ or shoe size or whatever else, right? But in this case, I don't really know what that value is. I just kind of made it up on the fly. Okay, that's the end of this chapter. Please do look at the section about common errors to avoid. That's always a good section. And we'll see you guys again in some future chapter.